homeless Genie befriends an independent garbage collector and helps him win the love of his life, a woman with the mental capacity of a 10-year-old, before she's artificially inseminated against her will. In a comedy the whole family can enjoy? We watched Wishman today on...
The f*** is this?
Why do some people count down from 3, and why do some count up from 1?
Oh, I can't stand it when people count like 1, 2, 3. I think no, it's like the space launch. It's supposed to be 3, 2, 1, liftoff.
Creates some anticipation.
I was teetering on the edge of saying 3. I don't know why I went with 1. I feel like 3 is the normal one that I go to, but I don't know.
And then the other one is like when you say like, well, are we going to go on 3 or are we going to go on go? Like 1, 2, 3, go. Right. Or are we going to go on 3?
That's like rock, paper, scissors, shoot, or rock, paper, scissors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need like a 15-minute like briefing before like you do anything, before you even do like the countdown setup.
Right.
Or like,
this is some good preamble here.
When you're asking for directions and, you know, like somebody saying, like, should I take like a left or should I take a right? And they're like, all right, you should go right. Right? Right. It should go, yeah. And it's just
and that only ever happens when you're driving and as you're like seconds away from the turn off.
Right.
It's the most integral part of the drive is when I need to know the directions now, please.
Or in any Mel Gibson movie. Is Mel Gibson? No, that's not right. Who's the guy who made Spaceballs?
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, there we go. Yeah.
In the Mel Gibson movie, they argue about which way to turn,
right.
And then they argue about how the Jews are running everything and slowly collapsing society.
Right.
In the Mel Gibson way, like, you turn wrong.
That's right.
He certainly took a wrong turn in his career. Well, welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to The Fuck Is This, where we dive through DVD bins, sort through streaming apps to find the weird, the bizarre, and the unloved. I'm host 1, Kaz Lesgard. Over here is host 2, Jameson Rafter.
Why am I 2? Why?
It's like a thing 1 and thing 2, maybe?
Thing 1, thing 2?
This is just my day.
We were sharing top billing here.
Man, this is my day for making the wrong choice. I made the wrong choice with counting down from 1, 2, 3, and then in like the split second in my head, I said, you know what? Don't call him your co-host, because he's your host. He's of equal value to you, so don't say co-host this time. So instead I said host 1 and host 2, meaning...
I don't mind co-hosts. I'm just thankful that you've never called me like your sidekick, like your Ed McMahon, or your Andy Richter or something like that.
No, I try to give you equal billing.
You could always go host 1 and host A or something, you know what I mean?
Try a little harder there, Kaz.
This is one of the hosts, Jameson Rafter.
Guess which one?
I'm another one. And joining us today on the show, he's an actor, an improviser, and he's one of the creators of the new cartoon pilot, Mythological, Nadip Shaw, live from Toronto. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
It's the first time we've had a guest who is not in the same time zone as
Oh, interesting. Really?
Yeah.
How is it?
Fine.
I don't know. How is it for you?
You?
Is I can't remember if
the sun
Vancouver...
is still up where we are.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in a basement right now, so I go to bed in the dark, I wake up in the dark, and my life is just dark. That's really dark.
Boy, singing my song, that is truly relatable.
Did Vancouver get rid of the daylight savings, or was that happening? What happened with that?
Oh God, I thought we were getting rid of it. I think we're saving that for like next year. I don't know.
Okay.
It was too short a notice to do it right now. I don't know.
Because why would something nice happen this year? No, let's save that for 2021.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not make anything in this year more convenient for anybody.
Yeah, and they actually give us an extra hour. Now we're 25 hours along in a day.
Right? Oh God.
I didn't mind this year's daylight savings time because it happened right on my birthday, and it happened the day of my birthday, and I didn't have anything to do. So when it flipped over, I'm all like, oh sweet, I have an extra hour of nothing to accomplish. So for the first time, I didn't mind the fall time change. It actually worked out really nice.
How would it work if you turn the drinking age? What is it here? 19, right? If you go out somewhere,
18.
I get 20. Oh, 18. Okay, is it
one more hour of bad decisions?
I was wondering how that would work if you go out somewhere and you're just like, hey, my birthday's in an hour, but now it's not, or it's an hour earlier. I don't even know how it works.
I mean, if the bartenders can make a sale, I'm sure they're going to look the other way.
Exactly. There you go.
That just reminds me of my 18th birthday, because the legal drinking age in, I don't know if it's the same now, but certainly when I was 18, the legal drinking age in Alberta was 18, but the legal drinking age in BC was 19, but I moved to Calgary to live with my dad on my 18th birthday, so I got to call all of my friends back in Kelowna on my 18th birthday and just be all like, hey, guess where I am? A bar. Guess what I'm doing? Drinking. Guess how I'm drinking? Legally.
That was your first late night drunken call, and certainly not the last.
No, not
Hey,
the last.
guess what? Hey. You know, this
Suckers. Yeah, right.
I love you, man.
That was a trend I picked up when I was 18 and continue right to last week. I've stopped drinking, but for some reason the drunken midnight phone calls have continued. They're just they're
just on the receiving
stone
end,
cold
or?
sober phone calls now, and they're not nearly as fun. So Matt, on this podcast, we watch weird, crazy, wild, stupid, bizarre, baffling, unseen gems, or the opposite of that. What's the opposite of a gem? Coal.
Coal. Coal.
Yeah,
I was gonna say poop, but I mean, they're
You know, eat enough gems, they become poop eventually.
Exactly.
So, what would you say one of the weirdest movies you've ever seen in your life is?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's a couple on the docket. The first one, definitely, because I saw it without any context whatsoever. It's a movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah?
I was just gonna say, like, that's the movie where, like, a Coke bottle falls into, like, the hands of, like, this tribal African village, and they're very harmonious, and they live together in harmony. Kind of redundant statement there, but they all start, like, tearing each other apart and becoming, like, there's a lot of infighting, because now they, like, whoever owns, like, the Coke bottle now has, like, a piece of worship and should be
Exactly.
They hold all the power. Yeah.
I believe the main actor in that was not an actor. He was legitimately just an African tribesman from whatever region they were filming.
That's
that
what
film
I heard.
In. He just had a lot of personality, so they just made him the main character of this movie. I remember renting that movie when I was a kid, and then seeing that guy's name in the credits. And that was when I learned that, and I'm so unbelievably ignorant, I don't know the specific African nation or the name of this language or anything, but I remember this guy's name right in the middle of it is an exclamation mark.
Yes,
and
that's right.
That's how I learned, that's how you write down the African, I don't want to say the clicking language, but it's the clicking language. That's the only way a dumb white guy like me knows how to say that, the clicking language.
Now I gotta,
but that's how you write it, with exclamation marks. So
yeah, that was that was a very strange movie, just because I had no idea what I was watching, and I must have been, just out of middle school, 10, 11?
I don't know about you, Jameson. That's definitely a movie I watched a lot as a kid. Haven't revisited it, but that's definitely one from the childhood.
No, but I definitely watched that as a kid, like as a young child, because I think I was like, staying over at my aunt and uncle's place, and like that was the movie that they had rented, because like they didn't know what to show me, so like, this looks funny, and
this looks great.
What do children like?
My one memory from that is there's a scene where like a guy is driving like this old like beat up truck, and I don't exactly know what the actor's ethnicity was supposed to be in the movie, but when he's like cursing out his car for like malfunctioning, he says, "You son of a malaka." And that made my uncle die of laughter. He loved that line, and like I don't know if that was like a made up word for the movie or if that's like a real term.
Times have changed.
Yes,
that's my fondest memory of The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Yeah.
In terms of African set comedies, I'm just going to make a bold assumption that The Gods Must Be Crazy holds up a little bit better than Ace Ventura 2. Which does not hold up well. Neither of those movies hold up well over time. They are.
No, I tried watching that of the first Ace Ventura movie a while ago, and I was like, wow, Jim Carrey made a whole career out of this. This is almost unbearable.
I will say I like it, because I think I grew up watching The Mask over and over and over again, and eventually, slowly but surely, Ace Ventura seeped its way in. So The Mask became Ace Ventura, became all the the Grinch or whatever. But I don't know, I enjoy them a lot.
The Mask became Ace Ventura, became Dumb and Dumber,
right?
And then all just sort of wrapped. Because a lot of people forget all three of those came out in the same year.
Yeah, Jim
Really?
Carrey was unstoppable. back then.
That's
Wow.
why Jim Carrey became like the highest paid actor in all of
Right.
Hollywood, because he had a phenomenal 1994, and then the very
Yeah.
next year he had Batman Forever, and like forget about it. He was
Right.
literally the biggest superstar on the planet. But
Yeah.
fond memories of Jim Carrey. Not so much of Ace Ventura 1, which is deeply, troublingly transphobic now. Matt, what was the other weird movie that you thought about mentioning?
So it's a wonderful piece. I think it's a British film. It's called Brazil. Very misleading.
Oh, yes.
It's a
yeah.
British
Terry
film about
Gilliam.
Brazil.
The great
yes,
Terry
yeah.
Gilliam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, basically, a lot of stuff happens to Terry. I forget his character's name.
Jonathan Pryce. is
Jonathan
the main
Pryce,
actor
that's
in that.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, what's his name? Robert De Niro shows up at one point.
Well, Brazil is kind of, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's kind of inspired by 1984. Same kind
It's
of
like a
basic
dystopia
idea.
satire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I guess you could call it a satire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely strange.
Yeah,
Very
no.
strange.
If you're looking for a weird movie, like you can certainly do worse than Terry Gilliam. We've certainly
Sure.
mentioned him a few times on the show. Yeah. No, Brazil's a brilliant movie. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's great. All right, great. Well, Matt, you have developed an animated pilot called Mythological, and as
Yes.
such, you wanted to watch a movie today that had something tied in to the concept of myths and legends, and that made me very excited because I've been sitting on a weird-ass Genie movie for quite a while now, and this gave me the perfect opportunity to watch it. So today, the movie we'll be watching is 1992's Wishman.
I'm so excited for this.
Directed by Mike Marvin, director of previous episode Hamburger the Motion Picture, which we did an
Nice.
episode on this. Oh, and he wrote Hot Dog the Movie. So the third time we've covered a movie.
I think he also wrote
from
this one as
gentleman.
well, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I will now have seen more Mike Marvin movies than I will have seen Terry Gilliam movies.
Seems to be a
I've
recurring
seen
theme.
Brazil and 12 Monkeys, and that's kind of it.
They're contemporaries.
Yeah.
Don't forget those Monty Python movies. He directed
Oh,
most
yeah.
of those.
Oh,
so you can definitely rope
Throw
lots of
those in there.
Yeah.
I take it back. Terry Gilliam, you still... How many does Mike Marvin have? How many...
Of movies that people maybe have heard of, I'm going to say one. It's not either of the two that we've covered. So I'll just do a brief recap because we have covered this director before. But yeah, just quick recap. Mike Marvin, his debut film was Hamburger the Motion Picture,
Which was insane.
we covered on the show. It's a dumb 80s sex comedy where people go to a hamburger university to learn how to make fast food. It's full of
Offensive stereotypes.
Yeah.
that totally holds up today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Slapstick comedy, yeah.
You know what? It might be interesting to eventually see like a remake of these films. You know what I mean?
You could try to make that movie again today. I don't
Yeah,
think...
it wouldn't fly. No, but
No, absolutely not.
Right.
I think every once in a while someone tries to make a movie in the style of the teen sex comedies. I don't think it gets further than YouTube.
No.
What was it? Didn't Logan Paul try to do like a remake of Airplane and he put it on YouTube?
Oh,
or
that's
something?
right. I don't know if it's
Like
out yet.
it was like a full-length movie or something. Yeah.
Ooh, was he scouting locations in Japan, or...?
That's what he was doing there. He
Surely.
was busy
Surely
poking
he must
bodies in the Suicide Forest. Yeah, I wouldn't know Jameson. I would never watch anything made
luck
by
with that,
Logan
Logan.
Paul.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to tell you. So Mike Marvin's only real film of note is the movie he made in between these two movies that we've talked about. It was a film called The Wraith, which since we talked about it last, I've actually had the opportunity to see. It's a great fucking cheesy 80s action / kind of horror thriller type movie.
I think I've seen the trailer for that. Does that have Clint Howard in it?
Interesting.
That has Clint Howard in it.
I've
yes.
seen the trailer for that.
A wraith, man! A ghost! An evil spirit, and it ain't cool!
Yeah, we watched it together on the Hamburger episode. So yeah, The Wraith is about a group of psychopathic hoodlums
Oh, nice.
who are led by Nick Cassavetes, the son of John Cassavetes and Jenna Rollins, who later went on to be the director of The Notebook. So, you know, you're classic movie heavy right there.
Right. What a
Kid was visiting
transition.
set one day and said, like, wow, I can do a lot better than this. I should be a director.
Right. That I believe we call that a midlife crisis.
So it's about these hoodlums who murder a young man and then try to steal his girlfriend, only for him to return as a murderous spirit of vengeance who can transform into a car, and who is played by Charlie Sheen.
So Transformers, basically.
With Charlie Sheen, yeah.
With Charlie Sheen, yeah.
Charlie Sheen is a car in disguise, and he's going around, he's murdering the people who murdered him.
Right.
Randy Quaid is the sheriff. It's great. It's a great 80s movie. I highly recommend it. It's probably the best thing he's ever done, because after that, he made Wishman, and then after Wishman, he faded into both obscurity and softcore porn.
Which we'll be watching today.
Yeah,
Lots
I mean, given all like the screwball sex comedies he's done, like I'm not surprised. Like, really cut his teeth on the genre before delving into softcore porn.
You could see him slowly just disintegrating.
No, and I'm not trying to porn shame Kaz. You're always like,
I'm just saying someone's got to make that. Someone's got to make that softcore porn. Somebody's got to do it. I'm not saying it's not the career drop off nowadays than it was in the past.
It's a dying genre. Yeah.
I'd like to see more.
It's certainly a lost art.
Totally. I'd like to see more directors kind of like find their way into that genre after Hollywood kind of dries up for them. Who's a director who hasn't made anything good in a while? I'd love to watch. What'd you say?
Terrence Malick.
I mean,
I'd be interested. Like, he's already conquered Hollywood. Let's see.
Right, switch it up a little. Let's see what happens.
Out of a 2-hour Terrence Malick porno movie, where it's just like half the time they're just spinning in fields. It's all, and people are saying like, "Oh yes, fuck me," but it's all in voiceover. Like no one opens. It's all ADR. They don't.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of porno, there's a
Go on.
We'd love to hear that. That's our favorite segue. Speaking of porno, yeah.
There's a movie called Lovelace.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It's based on the there's like
Linda Lovelace.
Linda Lovelace, exactly. So 1 year for my birthday.
Think.
Yeah, right. I mean, who's this? Yeah, 1 year for my birthday, I got this strange package in the mail. It was a present.
Oh, all right.
And it was the actual Linda Lovelace porn video, like the first porn ever made, that plays in the Lovelace film itself.
Deep Throat.
Deep Throat, yes. So I have somewhere on my DVD collection shelf, I have Deep Throat just sitting.
Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Wait, like on DVD?
On
or
DVD.
Did you get like... Okay, the way you were telling the story, I thought someone sent you like an original like print of Deep Throat, like it's just like from like the 1970s, like big tape like surrounding, like do not open.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like was this sent like anonymously? Like this is how like The Ring started.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, passing it around ever since. Yeah. No, but it's actually interesting, just like the history of everything, and you know what I mean, just like the movie theaters that showing these videos, and it's crazy.
I'm pretty sure porno existed before Deep Throat, but Deep Throat was the most financially successful porno.
Right.
It actually played in movie theaters. I believe it was like the 8th highest grossing film of whatever year it came out in. There was a period where in the 70s, before everything was Marvel and DC and everything, porno movies made bank at the box office, like next to Star Wars and shit. Like it was a different time.
Right, man, how times have
not
changed.
Playing at the same theaters, right? So like kids taking the kids. All right, kids, enjoy Empire Strikes Back. I'll be next door.
I'm gonna go watch The Empire Strokes Back.
Hey. Don't get those mixed up. That could end up very bad.
I should not be the guardian of children. All right. Well, some of the cast members in Wishman. Now, this movie doesn't have like a ton of famous stars in early roles before they got famous, but we got a solid handful of dependable character actors in this that you'll probably recognize from something or other. So, as the titular Wishman himself, Hitchcock the Genie, we have the late Jeffrey Lewis, who's one of those classic character actors with a ton of credits to his name. He was a favorite of Clint Eastwood. He appeared in 7 of his films, most notably as Orville Boggs, who is Clint's buddy in the 2 Any Which Way movies. You guys familiar with those?
No.
No.
Those are the ones where Clint plays a bare-knuckle boxer, and he drives a big rig, and he's best friends with an orangutan named Clyde.
Nope,
there were
not ringing a
two
bell.
of these
Yes,
movies.
never seen it.
It's amazing how movies kind of disappear from the public consciousness over time, because these movies sound absurd. At least through pop culture, have you never heard of the Clint Eastwood orangutan movie?
I've heard of like the bit of like, oh, Clint Eastwood was in a movie with a monkey, and
Yeah.
all right,
Where-
Sounds cool.
moving on.
it was these ones.
That sounds awful. I'm not going to waste my time with that shit. And then years later, I'm on this podcast, so I guess I have that to look forward to someday.
I can tell you, I haven't seen either of them. I don't know their quality, but I can tell you, speaking about box office, they were absurdly popular. The first one of these movies, Any Which Way But Loose, was the fourth highest grossing film of 1978. It
Really?
made $85 million.
It was probably a
So
porn.
that's what people... It's a bestiality porn.
Second only to Debbie Does Dallas that year.
Clint Eastwood getting jerked off by an orangutan.
Oh, God.
I don't know what
Oh,
people
God.
watched in fucking 1978.
It's a strange
Gas or
thing.
grass? What's it gonna be?
Right? Oh, God.
Jeffrey Lewis. He was also in films. He was also in films like The Devil's Rejects, Salem's Lot, Heaven's
Nice.
Gate, and Maverick, and he is the father of Juliette Lewis. So that's Hitchcock the Genie. As Basie, who's the easygoing junk collector who befriends Hitchcock the Genie, is Paul Lamont. He's best known for his breakout role in George Lucas's American Graffiti. He's one of the four main guys in that, so it's Richard Dreyfuss, Ron Howard, the accountant from The Untouchables, and this guy. He was also the star of a terrific Jonathan Demme movie called Melvin and Howard. Are you familiar with that?
No.
No, that's a sensational movie. Early 80s film. It's about a guy who's driving through the Nevada desert and he sees an old guy whose motorcycle is broken down. So he picks him up and he gives him a ride and they kind of share a conversation. And then it turns out near the end of the movie, that was Howard Hughes. And he's left him basically all of his fortune in his will. Just to like this random dude. But the majority of the movie is just kind of him living his life. Like he goes on a game show at one point. He goes through a couple of different marriages. It's just a nice slice of life movie like the 80s used to make. Just about people doing stuff.
You know what? I think that's the biggest thing that's changed is that like the writing back then was so wholesome. Well, wholesome maybe it's not the right word, but there was a story. You know what I mean? As opposed to nowadays. I mean, you get that occasionally, but it's more about the effects and everything.
I've been watching a lot of 80s movies lately, and the one thing that I've noticed is that they liked to do tonal shifts quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, speaking about Jonathan Demme, like, I watched a lot of his movies earlier this year, and he was a big fan of the tonal shift, where Something Wild starts off as a wacky comedy between Melanie Griffith and Jeff Daniels falling in love for the majority of the movie, and then in the last 30 minutes, Ray Liotta shows up as her psychotic boyfriend, and then it just immediately becomes a thriller.
Yeah.
And, like, people shooting guns and, like, killing each other and stuff, and it's like, the 80s like to do that. They like to swerve.
Right.
Yeah, you actually have like an hour of like character development and growth, and actually like falling in love with the characters themselves.
That's it.
And then that's kind of turned on its head, and now like the stakes actually feel real.
Yeah, you're invested in it. Yeah.
So also in this movie, as Staten Jack Rose, Basie's eccentric friend, is Brian James, best known as Leon Kowalski in Blade Runner.
Wake up. Time to die.
That dude, sort of the big hulking dude. He was sort of the Michael Shannon of the 80s. A big imposing dude that you probably wouldn't want to run into in an alley, but if you talk to him for 5 minutes, you realize, oh, he's probably a big sweetheart.
He's a sweet,
So
yeah.
he's in that.
He's a big player.
You don't want to act opposite him though, because you don't know when he's like actually gonna like deck you with one.
You would need a stepladder to act next to him. He was a very
Right.
tall man, yes. And finally, as this film's bad guy, we have a classic 80s bad guy, Paul Gleason, the iconic principal from The Breakfast Club.
Oh yeah.
The idiot police chief in Die Hard.
Oh, I love that guy.
Nice.
Oh,
That's
hell
great.
Yeah.
He's in here lending some trademark smarm to these effects.
Who's
here.
it? What's his
Yeah.
character's name in this? Wishman?
His name is Silverstein.
Silverstein. Ooh.
God, I'm really glad that you ended off with that one, Cass, because I was getting nothing from some of those other actors.
I don't know. Yeah.
No
Well, the
offense
thing-
to them, but I mean,
The thing with all character actors is that, like, I can list off the movies that I think are probably their most well-known roles. We're probably going to watch this and you're probably going to recognize these people from something that I failed to mention. They've been in a lot. The thing about character actors is they're in lots of movies. So there's lots of weird...
And you never know.
I'll recognize them from something else, and I was like, oh, you should have just said this.
Yeah.
Like something way more broad, but...
Well, I'm sorry for not being more broad.
It's okay,
anyway.
Kaz. I forgive you.
On this streak,
Cool.
right? Counting down from 3 or counting up from 1, whatever it was.
Whatever.
You're on thin ice here, let's go.
This is why you don't host a podcast with dyslexia. All right, cool. So, unless anyone has anything else to talk about, so we can take a break and we can go watch Wishman. This movie is cuckoo bananas. I've been waiting to show anyone this for almost a year. I'm thrilled we could finally do it, and it ties in with your theme, Matt. Because this movie doesn't exist anywhere except YouTube, and I've been worried that it was going to disappear from YouTube before I got the opportunity to show it to anyone.
This movie is a myth itself.
It is. It's sort of a myth itself. I would recommend...
Watch it while you can.
Looking around for posters, promotional images for this on the internet, I cannot find a poster that isn't the French or French-Canadian version. So every poster for this movie I found says Wishman, subtitle Le Bon Genie.
The good genie? Is that how that...
So we know he's good. All right, great. So yeah, unless anyone has anything to say, we can take a break and we can go watch Wishman.
Yeah!
It's just fun to say.
Oh wait, Matt, didn't you have like some story about Tim Hortons that you wanted to do at the top, or is that not worth it?
It wasn't so much a story; it was more of a discovery.
An observation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
What we can do is we can start talking about it, and then fade the episode out, and then when the episode comes back, we can fade in, and you can tell us the ending of the story. That's how we'll edit it together. All right, so we're gonna go watch Wishman. We'll be right back. All right, Matt, what was your Tim Hortons story?
So I went to get Tim Hortons recently, and I was walking back, sipping my medium French vanilla, and eating a lovely chocolate Timbit, and I started thinking about Dunkin' Donuts, and how there's no Dunkin' Donuts, as far as I can see.
Hey all, it's Jameson with today's charity spot. Every year on November 11th, we here in Canada and several other countries around the world observe Remembrance Day, a time of reflection and reverence where we honor the duty and sacrifices made by our service men and women throughout our history. In these times, I often think of my late grandfather, who lied about his age in order to enlist into the Canadian Air Force to join the Allied forces in World War II. He had served as a communications officer on a Sutherland bomber and rose through the ranks to become an Air Force colonel. A noble and humble man, he typically equated his time during the war as his moral duty and something he hoped his children and grandchildren would never have to experience. And though he spoke little about his time in the war, he routinely advocated for and supported veterans' charities and affairs throughout all the years I knew him. Now, there are a lot of veterans' charities, many that I have never heard of, and many with several different mandates. The main thing with any charity is being aware of what percentage their administration budget is when compared to their total budget. Ideally, about 3/4 of the funds raised by them actually go to the vets, with the rest spent on staff salaries, office rent, and other such overhead. Some charities give support to families of deployed or wounded soldiers, some provide sports therapy similar to Invictus Games, some deal with homeless vets, some for all first responders, and some for veterans dealing with PTSD. From what research I've done, woundedwarriors.ca, truepatriotlove.com, and certainly the Royal Canadian Legion of legion.ca are top-tier organizations and great places to start. But if I can make one clear charity suggestion for this episode, it would be to visit canadahelps.org, search for charities applicable to veterans, and look through the list of what the available charities do and what their finances are, and find the charities that you're comfortable could do the most good with your contributions. Again, that's woundedwarriors.ca, truepatriotlove.com, legion.ca, and by searching veterans on canadahelps.org.
If I might segue from Tim Hortons to a different fast food establishment, there's a local McDonald's in Vancouver, actually. I think it's on the Fraser River, but it's a floating McDonald's that was opened...
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. The McBarge.
The McBarge, exactly, yeah. And so it's like, it's abandoned. I think it's sinking, but it's still above water.
No, like it was something that they cooked up for Expo 86, and it was this floating McDonald's that you could like take a boat up and go to, and it's been derelict for like half a decade now.
So it's literally like that episode of The Simpsons where they find the Krusty Burger in the middle of the ocean.
The thing is, like, it doesn't have any ownership. Like, it's sort of like off limits to people, but like, it's up for grabs. Like, you can buy it for like 48 grand or whatever. But,
sounds like a great investment.
Yeah, a real fixer-upper.
Sounds like the perfect place to wait out a pandemic. I'm surprised no one else has snapped this up yet.
Right?
This is good. Matt, go ahead and email me the latitude and the longitude of this derelict McDonald's in the middle of the ocean. I have a feeling it's gonna come in handy sooner than we...
You know, it's not out in the middle of the ocean. Like, it's in our backyard, Kaz. Like,
on the Fraser River. It's literally within walking distance,
Okay, well, I'm gonna get to it, and then I'm gonna cut the ropes, and then I'm just gonna sail off, and there'll be nothing but my loneliness and the smell of decades-old French fry grease to,
You know, you're gonna take one look at this thing and have, like, a second thought. I just know.
Ironically, it is the only McDonald's in town where the milkshake machine still works. So, I got that going for me.
And the burgers are just as fresh as when they were 80 years, or in the 1980s.
People gotta come to my yard, because, that's where the milkshakes are. That's where the boys come.
Hey,
the boys gotta come to my yard. And my yard is the ocean. So, it's gonna make it hard for the boys. Gonna make it hard for those boys. And we're back! We're back!
Yes.
We're back, everybody.
Back from Wishman.
We're back, from watching Wishman. Now, we're gonna open this section of the podcast with a disclaimer. We apologize. We will be, unfortunately, using the word retard quite a bit in this portion of the podcast. We don't want to. Wishman is forcing us. Because it is mentioned so often in this movie, we kind of have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I lost track. I was tallying up. I lost track after, 6, 7?
Yeah, this movie is ample for a drinking game because there are certain elements that frequently pop up throughout the narrative. Drink every time the Betty Ford clinic is mentioned. Drink every time a truck backfires. Drink every time the R word is dropped.
Having to drink every time Betty Ford is mentioned it was one of those ironic drinking games. I have a feeling.
Unexpected, yeah, right?
What are our initial thoughts on 1992's Wishman, directed and written by Michael Marvin? He's going the full Michael this time, because he wants us all to know this is his auteur movie.
I was gonna say, it's so interesting having watched the first two of his movies, Hot Dog, the movie, and Hamburger, the motion picture, and seeing him grow and mature as a filmmaker.
Sure, let's call it that.
Because he probably said to himself, it's time for me to grow up, and probably come up with a movie
Make a movie, but yeah.
Has some heart to it, but it's not enough that your movie has heart. The heart has to be in the right place.
My goodness. So, okay, I want to know, so you go into a Blockbuster, or, I mean, that may be an outdated reference, but you go into a movie store, or you go into and you're browsing for a movie, and you see The Wishman. What makes you go, this is it, this is how I'm going to spend my Friday night?
I mean, this is definitely a hypothetical situation you're talking about here, because you're not going to be scrolling through anything and find Wishman. Like, maybe Tubi TV. I'm surprised this isn't buried somewhere on Tubi, but this is not going to end up on Netflix anytime soon.
No.
I mean, I have theories as to why it was made, when it was made. The only reason to watch a movie like this is to do literally what we're doing, to talk about it on a podcast that specializes in, look at this weird fucking thing. Who came up with this? Like, this may be, Jameson, this may be one of the more perfect movies I think we've ever watched for this show, because it hits.
You're gonna hang your hat on that. You're gonna hang your hat on that one. This is the perfect movie.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. I don't know.
It is pretty much like a quintessential. The fuck is this episode? Yeah.
100%. Oh, I mean, I will tell you guys, I was successfully saying to myself, "The fuck is this?" many times during this movie.
That's the name of the show. Well, I mean, I have a few theories. So this movie came out in 1992. Hazard a guess what other movie came out in 1992 that was somewhat Genie related?
Aladdin?
Yeah, it came out like I'm not sure how
No.
many theaters this was in, but its release date was July of 1992, and Aladdin came out in December. So this is something that
Interesting.
methinks maybe they were aware that Aladdin was on the production schedule for a while, and Mike Marvin in all his infinite wisdom says Genie movies are going to be hot. Like I need to get ahead
Yeah,
of this
Genie fever
thing,
has
'cause there's
swept the
gonna be-
nation.
I mean, not to shit on any part of this movie, but it sounds like he went to see Aladdin and then, took out his notebook and just kind of wrote the whole movie right there.
Well, he must have gone to like an industry screening or something. Because this movie came out before Aladdin did.
Oh, did it? Oh, interesting.
You know what this movie also predates? The season of Arrested Development where Michael starts dating a mentally challenged woman.
Oh boy,
no.
there are some uncomfortable overtones in this film.
Out of nowhere, too. They come out of nowhere.
It starts off as a perfectly innocent, homeless genie movie, and then,
yeah.
it
Veers heavily left.
it throws in a love interest for the non-genie character.
It makes a Mel Gibson wrong and goes into some pretty rough territory.
Lots of things to say about that. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's start breaking down Wishman. So it opens with the most dramatic piano music they could find.
Oh.
Really setting the tone for this lighthearted, wacky caper.
There's a guy named Basie who I'm gonna say is like an independent garbage man. Doesn't work for the city, but he just goes around, collecting trash for the neighborhood.
And selling it?
I suppose at a scrapyard, yeah.
The plot description on IMDb says that he's a junk man who goes around making things out of junk, making new things out of junk. And that's kind of alluded to in his very first line of dialogue, which the more you sort of roll it around in your brain, the more deep you realize it is, because he's looking through the garbage and he finds, what is that, like one of like those spray can things for gardens and stuff?
Yeah, it's like an old-timey pesticide pump
Yes,
spray.
pesticide, yeah.
Whatever, yeah. Yeah, what does he say, like...
Hey, are you my little friend? Or is the question, what could you have been?
And he really sort of like lets that line linger a little bit, and then you realize as this movie goes on, Mike Marvin maybe wants to say something about the subject of homelessness in general. It seems like he's trying to make a point about it. He fails spectacularly to make any
100%
sort of... I don't know what his end game there was, but the whole, what could you have been? It feels like he's laying the groundwork there.
Yeah, like, Basie is the kind of guy who will see the world for, like, not dismissively. Like, he's not gonna throw something away. He's got a very wholesome way of looking at the world, where he's not gonna devalue anything, or anyone. Especially if, like, society has already written them off. And I think that is very admirable, particularly from the director of Hot Dog the Movie to go with this.
I mean, just like from like the first shot where, I mean, if you really take the circumstances and put them in, an everyday life sort of context, there's a homeless man in the back of his truck. He says, "Hey, what are you doing? Get in my truck." And then they go on this adventure together. And
yeah, he is fast friends with this homeless pirate character who we find out is the Genie.
Right.
So Basie, he's a junk collector who turns junk into other things, is what IMDb tells me, even though we don't see him do that once.
Yeah, it'd be great if he could, like, MacGyver certain things to happen throughout the movie, but he doesn't.
Or, I mean, like, show us that he's, like, an artist or something, and he has, like, a lock where he's glued or like, welded a bunch of stuff together. I mean, that would have been fine. I don't think we ever see where Basie lives.
No, good point.
I mean, the movie is pretty short. The movie's not even an hour and a half, and it gives us a lot of, let's call it, unnecessary details. But, they could have easily have thrown in a handful of scenes just so we could see what Basie's whole deal is, but I don't know. We're already getting hung up on one thing. We have like an entire movie.
On the first fucking scene of the movie, first fucking line of the movie.
So we learn that Basie is in love with a woman whose name he does not know, but we learn that every day for the past 12 years, he drives out to the front of her house, which is a big palatial mansion in Beverly Hills. He digs through her trash, But before he digs through her trash, he makes sure to give her a little wave, and she gives her a little wave back. And because they've been doing that for the past 12 years, they are now in love.
They are now in
Boy,
love. Yeah.
he is
got
in
a
for a
connection.
surprise.
Oh, I wish it were that simple.
Speaking
Do you
of
actually,
simple,
based on what happens in this movie,
I was gonna say very
it should
poor
be
choice of
more
words there.
complicated for a reason. So as he's digging through her trash, he sees an arm, and that arm turns out to be connected to Hitchcock the Genie, who we don't quite know yet. Obviously we know he's a genie because the movie's called Wishman. But yeah, he appears to be, another homeless derelict, and he keeps saying, "I've lost my bottle."
I give up. I'm lost. I need my bottle.
Which leads to the first of many Betty Ford jokes. Boy, they love referencing that Betty Ford. Remember that? From the 90s?
The Betty Ford Clinic? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Hitchcock has... What did you guys think of his performance? I kept, linking it to, Jack Nicholson trying to do Jack Sparrow.
Jack
or
Sparrow.
Doing, Jim
I 100%
Leahy.
got Jack Sparrow, yeah. There was a moment I even think he turned around to what's his name? The main... Not Davies.
Basie.
There we go. And he went, "I just want to find my bottle." And you had this, British accent on for a second. And, it was straight up just Jack Sparrow as a genie.
He was doing a Jack Sparrow impression 15 years before Jack Sparrow was created.
You got some explaining to do, Johnny Depp.
For
he's
a lot of things.
Yeah, he's got... he's off balance most of the time. He's doing the hand gestures towards the camera.
Right.
He's doing odd twirls unnecessarily. He's leaning on people. It's actually a pretty, considering that yes, this does predate Jack Sparrow. It's pretty fucking inventive, I'll say.
Right.
Yeah, because he's playing this. The reason that this genie doesn't have his magic bottle is because he just got drunk and he lost it.
He lost it, yeah.
It's as simple as that. There's no, tertiary characters who, were his masters before and they kept the bottle from him and, abandoned him long ago. There's, no sort of, through line for that. He's just, genies exist in the real world, and this one just happened to get drunk one day and, misplaced his magic bottle.
We don't even see that, right? I think the first shot is just some homeless man picking up out of the trash and then going to a park, and then the kids take it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a weird misdirect because we see the homeless man rooting through the garbage and we see him find the bottle and then, go to a park, and then he, rubs the bottle, and, our brains have led to believe, oh, this is how the genie gets out of the bottle. No, the genie has already been out of the bottle for, 6 days at this point. So it's very confusing when he pops up later, and this homeless man is one of many unconnected characters that never come back, that you think is going to be a bigger deal, but it turns out not to. I have a feeling a lot of this part of the podcast is just going to be us breaking down the rules of this specific genie, because they are confusing, and they seem to change by scene to scene. They haven't really narrowed it down yet.
Whatever is convenient in whatever they need in the plot to drive it forward or move the story forward or whatever it is.
They don't even give you, the typical, I'll give you 3 wishes. So there's, never, a question of, 3 wishes. Even though at one point Basie does mention, I'm going to use my last wish. Even though the genie never told him, the number of wishes he has available to him. The genie can rescind wishes, and you can't indirectly use your wish to do the genie any kind of favors. That's the only rule that they're kind of consistent on.
Yeah, that's the thing. Basie first wishes for $1 million, which we have to circle back and talk to that because there's another part of that is just unbelievable. But yeah, he wishes for $1 million, and then his second wish is, well, I want to use this $1 million to help you find out where your bottle is. And then Hitchcock takes the $1 million back, and he explains that you cannot use a wish to help a genie in any way. I don't necessarily know why he had to take the money back. He could have just not used it to help him. But as we learn later, Hitchcock plays pretty fast and loose with his own set of rules. So, yeah, there doesn't seem to be any sort of 3-wish guideline per person. There's no one master, I guess, because I guess whoever let him out of the bottle got his wish and then left, and now he's just like a free agent genie walking around. He can also do magic without anyone wishing for it.
Independent of anyone else. If he thinks he can help people out of a jam, he'll do it. He'll just do it because
although conveniently doesn't when it's needed most.
And also this whole rule that he has about no wishes can be made that would would affect me in a positive manner. He seems to be able to get around that fairly easy just by having someone lie to him. It's just so like, I want to do this wish. It's going to help you. I can't do it. Okay, it's not going to help you. Okay, there you go.
All right, I'll make it work.
Like, okay, but what are these rules then, Hitchcock? Like what's the line here? You got to help us with it.
By that own reasoning, Hitchcock should not be able to use his magic to prove to other people that he is in fact really a genie.
Right. Right.
Which is, yeah.
What do I gotta do to prove to you that I'm a genie? Do some magic. I can't do it.
I can't do it, right?
The other thing we learn is that he's been away from his bottle, so he's gradually losing his magical powers over time. He's getting weaker and weaker with each wish that he grants. But what's, kind of like amazing about this first interaction between him and Basie is how immediately Basie gets on board with the concept of him being a magical genie, because he picks up this Hanover pirate homeless man who probably smells terrible, and he's driving him around in his truck, and he's just like, come on, man, you're not a genie. It's just like, make a wish. All right, fine, how about $1 million? He gets $1 million. Oh, I guess you're a genie. He's on board immediately. No follow-up question.
And that's a recurring theme throughout every time the genie.
It happens
Hitchcock
twice more.
Yeah, it's so anticlimactic. The one that stood out for me is the doctor, the big doctor guy, right?
Yeah.
And he makes leaves or whatever red mushrooms appear, and he just goes, "Oh, okay, that's great.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you're a genie. You're right. What can I do for you?"
I'm a medical doctor. I believe in science and reason, and what you have just shown me has rocked my beliefs to the core. But please continue, Mr. Genie Man. I immediately buy into this, and I have no follow-up questions. There's a genie in my office.
Don't be absurd. Genies aren't real. And like, oh, all right, they're real. Okay. Well,
all right, right.
Moving on.
The story, right.
Yeah. So to aid in the hunt for Hitchcock's bottle, interesting that it's a bottle and not a lamp.
Right.
It took me a minute to kind of like wrap my head around that, but like I've totally seen like movies and cartoons where a genie comes out of a bottle. I dream of Genie comes out of a bottle.
Oh, there we go. That's
right.
probably it.
Right.
And in a pre-Aladdin world, that would be the most popular pop culture genie of that time. So yeah, that would be what they would model this genie character on. So to aid in the search for Hitchcock's bottle, they go to find Staten Jack, what's his name?
Rose.
Staten Jack something. Staten Jack
Sparrow.
Rose. Staten Jack Rose. Who's played by Brian James, who is an amazing character. He's the sort of best friend everyone would want to have.
He is like the ultimate, like, loyal hatchet man who is like good in any kind of bind, always up for anything.
Up for anything, yeah.
Everyone needs a best friend. Like
he may have been he just got out on bail before joining the gang. I think I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, he's a Vietnam veteran, and there's this running joke about him constantly being arrested for things because he's nuts. Well, his introductory scene is at a cockfight.
Right.
So that's one way to endear a character to you immediately. But yeah, we get the impression that Staten Jack is a bit of a rabble-rouser, but, he's a good friend to have in a pinch. Again, Hitchcock performs a super minor miracle, like the doctor with the flowers and, like, the $1 million with Basie. That's kind of amazing. Staten Jack, like, Hitchcock just changes the headline on his paper, and he's all like, oh! Yeah. There's a genie here. Oh, all right, go ahead.
All right, great.
He asks him like who's like slated to win like the big the Kentucky Derby or something. And rather than like using his magic abilities to like transport them to the Kentucky Derby like in progress or whatever, he just says like check the date on the newspaper, and it's like,
oh. I think that's exactly how he did it too. It's just
So I mentioned in the first half of the podcast other roles that Paul Le Mat and Brian James were known for. Turns out that was a good thing to do in the intro, because there were two references that I noticed this time around that I didn't actually notice before, that were direct references to other roles that they played in the past, which is odd, because I feel even for 1991, these weren't the most popular guys. Because there's a Melvin and Howard reference, where Paul Le Mat's talking to the genie.
I don't know where I'm going, but I'll reward the hell out of you for the favor. Who are you, Howard Hughes?
And it's like, oh, okay, well, I got that reference because I'm a film nerd, but like, in 1991, there couldn't have been that many Melvin and Howard fans left over. That's not...
Right.
Even then, that wasn't that popular of a movie, so
I'm pretty sure.
odd.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Matt and I only got that reference because you mentioned that to us at the top of the hour.
I was like, I even wrote down Howard Hughes.
There's an even more obscure reference that I offered, and I had to go rewind to make sure I heard it correctly. It blows my mind that they put this in here because only the nerdiest of losers like myself would have ever caught on to this. So it comes from when Stat and Jack is just joining their team, and they're talking about, well, where's the bottle, Hitchcock? I don't know. I lost my bottle. And Stat and Jack has a line where he says,
You need to remember where the bottle is? Hell, I know people remember for you wholesale.
Now, Blade Runner is based on a short story by Philip K. Dick called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. So that is the most legwork anyone has ever done for like a weird reference in a movie that no one has seen based on a character that someone else played a decade previous.
Right.
Wow. You know, that kind of begs the... You know, we often ask on this podcast, like, who the hell like would make this movie? Who would have thought a good idea? Who would produce this movie?
Right. Who would read
like,
this?
with everything that's already going on, like, now imagine that, like, you know, Mike Marvin, or whatever the hell his name is, he obviously wrote that in himself, or whatever.
Totally. No, he must have, or they came up with it on the day, but it's like, wouldn't it have made...
But there's no producer who's, like, saying, like, no one's gonna fucking get that, but, like, when he's, like, in charge of the whole thing, like, oh, I'll make my own damn movie, and I'll put in whatever kind of fucking references I want, and no one can say who.
It's such an obscure reference, too. Like, if you want to reference Blade Runner, because Brian James was in Blade Runner, like, say a line from Blade Runner, have him say his wake up, time to die line, or something like that.
Right.
No, people who love the movie Blade Runner, a lot of them don't even know that it's based on a short story called We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. Like, that is so weirdly
Does it serve
obscure.
the plot?
Like,
No.
I couldn't
Does it move
believe
the story
I caught
forward?
that.
No. Yeah.
So, to refresh Hitchcock's memory, they take him to a series of wacky psychics and mind readers in a scene that really goes nowhere, but it's in there anyway.
Yeah, like they debunk a psychic and a hypnotist for, like, I don't know, they seem to be going about, like, the wrong way of tracking down, like, a bottle. Like, go to swap meets, or something like that. Like,
right.
Yeah,
I think they referenced some kind of antique
I think it was more or less to show, like, these characters are, like, fringe members of society, so let's visit other fringe members of society.
Right.
Well, it also stands to reason because Basie is a junk diver, a dumpster diver, or whatnot. He would know the other people in that community. So yeah, let's have like a whole bunch of... why do we have like this montage of people like waving watches in front of Hitchcock's face? Let's have a montage of them going to swap meets, talking to more homeless people, going to more antique stores, just diving through dumpsters. Why are we doing this hypnotist thing? Especially because we've already established he's not human. Why would they assume that this would work on him at all? And indeed, it doesn't.
Yeah, the hypnotist gets hypnotized. I am noticing that we're kind of like dancing around the subplot of the female character. Because we really don't want to get into this, do we?
No. I mean, I want to. It's just that could reasonably fill up an entire podcast all on its own. So, okay, let's put a pin in the Hitchcock storyline. Let's talk about this love interest. So,
if we must.
So there's a girl... Do you want to take this? Take the floor, Jameson.
Oh, by all means, Kaz, go right ahead. You are number one, after all.
That's true. Don't forget it, number two. Stay in your lane. All right.
So, Lily is this woman whose parents were killed somehow when she was a little girl, and the events, like, left her shocked and mentally broke her to the point where she spent most of her childhood up until her late 20s confined to a mental institution. She's just been released under the care of her lawyer, who's played by Paul Gleason. He's great in this.
He's great.
Fantastic.
He's doing great 80s sleazeball stuff. Yeah, no, no one was better at that than him. Yeah, this is a great villain role with none of like the shades of gray. The principal in Breakfast Club, you could kind of see that there was a person there. Silverstein is just ridiculous. He's just a cartoon villain, and he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so she's left in the care of him, who enlists like this corrupt team of medical professionals to kind of keep her always kind of in like a state of like sedation and isolated from the rest of the world, just so he can like keep leeching off of her wealthy family, because like her parents were like the owners of some like champagne business.
Yeah, they said she's a champagne heiress, which I guess means she's the heiress to a champagne company.
Yeah.
Champagne heiress, besides being a fantastic band name, sounds like one of those terms that doesn't necessarily mean what I think it means.
It had to sound like she was rich, and like put those two words together,
champagne,
and it sounds like the richest
fancy,
motherfucking thing in the world.
Yeah.
Lily is 29 years old, but she's severely developmentally disabled. They say that she can only read at a second grade level, and she is the lead female love interest of this movie, which makes it very creepy. Like, very weird. Like, it just immediately gives it like a very weird, icky tone that never goes away. It's very strange.
And she's stuck to like a strict regiment of vitamin therapy, piano lessons, and, workouts.
It sounds like just like a really, really bad holistic wellness treatment plan or something.
Yeah, that even the head doctor says, I want no part of this anymore. Like, this is morally wrong, and you keep using the R word around me, and I just don't want to be associated
I can't
with
handle it,
Yeah. The doctor who comes in to do a checkup on Lily in the first scene, and then stands in the corridor and tells Paul Gleason that he's quitting basically so he can give all the exposition necessary in that one scene. Like, he tells you everything you need to know about Lily and her situation. It's a real, as you know, sort of moment where it's like two characters are talking and they would never talk that way because they both know what's going on. We don't need to repeat this. We both know because we've been doing this presumably for over 11 years. So let's move on. Yeah. So yeah, Lily is in this sort of captive situation. She's being held there by Paul Gleason and the film's other villain, Mrs. Krabs.
Oh, I love Mrs. Krabs.
Who is played by another great villain of the 80s. Did you recognize this lady? She's Nancy Parsons, who played Beulah Ballbricker in the Porky's trilogy.
Nope.
Huh. I've never seen the Porky's trilogy.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I think I watched the first Porky's when I was young. I think it's fair to say it probably hasn't held up well over the years, but
oh, this poor woman, like, she's in the Porky's trilogy and this.
She was like the female coach who was like, horny teens? I don't know. Honestly, I don't remember much of Porky's, but I know she was in it, and I know that was a franchise, so it's worth mentioning. Mrs. Krabs is an interesting character, to say the least.
Her arc in this movie is one of my favorites. She goes from this, like, it looks like uptight, like caregiver who really cares about this girl, to, this like hardcore badass FBI lady who's just been following these two crooks for years.
You were dead wrong about this character. We were watching it and like, she's having like a crisis of conscience. Oh no, that's because we find out what their new plot is. So Paul Gleason has been leeching off of Lily for years. He's been leeching off of her inheritance because I guess he's her legal guardian.
Which is weird.
Yeah, and Mrs. Krabs is saying, we can't keep her locked up like this forever. Like the maid staff and whoever, like they're gonna start getting suspicious. And also, she's an adult woman. Like, we can't keep doing this to her forever. And Paul Gleason's solution is, well, what if we get her pregnant?
Again, super gross. Let's go with this. This is the
I think
he
even referenced doing it himself at one point too.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, she talked him out of it, saying something like, oh, we can't do that because, like, your kid will be too smart.
You're too smart, yeah.
Again, this is an important distinction. And again, I just want to preface this by saying, this isn't a word that I use in my day-to-day language, but it's not so much that they need to get her pregnant with the baby. They specifically need to get her pregnant with a retard baby, which is what they say in the movie. So it's like, we need to get her pregnant, and the baby needs to be dumb enough for us to
continue this cycle. Yeah. So how they go about doing that?
So they go to a sperm bank.
They open a book and choose a guy who is clearly not qualified enough to have donated sperm in the first place.
And who also, as luck would have it, they see leaving the sperm bank as they're getting there. So they already like cherry picked this mongoloid to like get their sperm so they can sneakily impregnate Lily, I guess, when she's getting like her steam bath or something.
I gotta say, like, the doctor who ran that sperm bank is probably one of my favorite bit characters of anything I've seen. He has a terrible bedside manner. And, like, Paul Gleason, you know, he's the movie's villain, so of course he's gonna use the most, like, you can't say that kind of language around this doctor, but the doctor is kind of, like, right on the same page with
you know what? Yeah, right. Yeah.
And, well, she's getting up there again.
Old as the hills. Check.
Never had any children?
0 rugrats. Check.
The problem is she's not overly attractive. In fact, she's so ugly when she was a kid at dinner time, her parents had to prop her up in the corner and feed her with a slingshot.
Buzzard ugly. Check. Step into my office.
I got you. Here you go. Here's my recommendation.
Talking about this sperm bank scene, I want to talk about one of my favorite weird side characters that I'm very confused that they included, and I don't really know what the point was. So this doctor has an assistant doctor, and he has the weirdest introduction. It's a character who is given a name, and they really hammer home that they want you to remember his name, and you're like, okay, this is a joke. This is leading to something. It is, and it isn't. So when Paul Gleason and Coach from Porky's are sitting there and they're looking through the sperm bank donor thing with the doctor, another doctor's assistant comes in, sits at a desk. Paul Gleason stops and he looks back and he looks at the guy, and the doctor just says like, "Oh, that's just my associate doctor whoever." And then the camera cuts in on this guy's face and he goes, "Just call me Dick."
Feel free to call me Dick.
And you're like, oh, okay, good.
All right.
Good to meet you, Dick. And then
he's got one of those like really punchable looking faces too.
Yeah.
So like,
but then he does.
Yeah. Oh,
but then he does nothing else for the rest of that scene. And then you're like, oh, was that the last of Dick? No, we see him later. He delivers the sperm sample to the mansion later, which is in a big metal container of dry ice, and it's bubbling like one of Dr. Frankenstein's creations.
It's like a fucking cauldron. It's got the dry ice and it's bubbling and everything.
My favorite, right?
And we get a repeat because he goes up to the intercom and he pushes the button. He goes like, "Hello, I'm Dr. Richard so and so. I'm here for the donation." It's like, "Who?" And he's like, "Just call me Dick." And it's like, well, there it is again. It's okay. We're building up to some sort of punchline, and it never gets there because the only other thing that he does is he goes inside, he delivers the sperm sample, but then he spills the sperm sample, which proves to not even be an issue because seconds later Lily escapes on her own accord. It does lead to probably one of my favorite lines in the movie. Dick's final line, and then he disappears from the movie. He looks at the sperm sample that's all over the floor, and he goes,
"Oh, merciful God, I spilled the man's essence." Get out of here!
"Oh, merciful God, I've spilled a man's essence." And then that's it. And then Dick's out of the movie.
A wrap on
and
Dick.
Dick has spilled the essence.
Why did they go out of their way to give so much screen time to this guy, and it amounts to absolutely nothing?
All for that one moment.
So these two plots start getting like intertwined here, where
Finally,
yeah. So Basie's Staten, Jack, Rose, and Hitchcock, you know, they see, or Basie does his daily routine where he waves to Lily, and you know, Staten, Jack, or whatever, this is like, oh, that boy's lovesick and he's doing it all wrong. And Basie uses a wish. He's like, oh, I just wish I could talk to that girl. Staten Jack says, hey, you hear that? He said he needs a wish granted. So he says, okay, I'll arrange for you guys to like meet tomorrow. And they do. They have like a small like interaction where it's, you know, they're holding hands and it's sweet.
I guess sweet is a word you can use. It's, you know what? No, I'm going to double back on that immediately, Jay. It's not sweet. It's super creepy. Look,
cringy, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is super creepy, but like, you know, they're trying to make it sweet. Look, as like,
Basie, we've all been there. We've all had crushes on people from afar. We've all had crushes on the pretty girl at one point in time. but there comes a point in time where you maybe have a crush on a pretty girl from afar, and then, you know, like, you have, like, mutual friends or whatnot, and then you start going to, like, the same parties with that girl that maybe you have a crush on from afar, but then you observe the way she kind of, like, interacts with people, and that crush should instantly be replaced with feelings of, oh, no, I need to wrap this girl in a warm blanket and tell her everything's going to be okay. Basically, you need to swerve immediately from romantic feelings to, like, paternal feelings. Of, like,
yeah,
I need to, what should have happened is, like, I need to save this girl, I need to get her away from these bad people, but it sort of force feeds us this romance. And because Lily, she has the brain of a 12-year-old, it's weird. It's weird and gross, and it never goes away. It never stops being weird and gross.
Does it ever dawn on him either? Or do they just keep going?
Well, I don't think I think the movie wants us to see that to basically, like, he doesn't care about superficial things like that, because he sees people for who they are or whatever.
Yeah, age is just a number, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, that fucking to the fucking Barry Gibb looking motherfucker.
That's a good call. Barry Gibb is a good call. I wrote down he's a slightly thinner Al from Home Improvement, but Barry Gibb is a better call. Yeah, Lily, like, escapes from the mansion, and she hooks up with the team, who are still trying to find Hitchcock's bottle. I guess they know where it is. I don't know. God, this plot is insane.
They find it. They know that it's at, like, this art gallery, or this, like, museum gallery. They go talk to the fucking gallery owner, who's, like, fucking... Oof. At least get, like, this guy's first line in the movie in the audio for this cast, because I can't describe it. It's just great.
Let me see if I have this correctly. You claim that you recently arrived in Los Angeles and that you've lost our newly acquired Phoenician bottle.
It's just like hoity-toity, like, oh, so you think you can get this place? Anyways, they say that Hitchcock needs the bottle. The guy refuses to give it to him. They don't prove that Hitchcock is magic in front of this guy, which would easily, solve all their problems. Yeah. Right. Instead, they just let themselves get escorted out of the gallery to attack the gallery later that night in a great, probably the best sequence in the movie.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
There's like a half of a fight scene, and...
Well, because Staten, Jack, and Basie break into the art gallery to steal the bottle, which is in, like, a glass enclosure, and Staten Jack's way of getting the bottle out is by taking the biggest chainsaw that has ever existed.
Biggest chainsaw.
Screaming like a madman as he's cutting through that thing.
And he just saws through the base of it. And of course they immediately get arrested by the police.
The dumbest thing is, like, to sneak in, there's a keypad, and Basie says, like, if we just keep hitting any combination of numbers, eventually it's gonna go through, unless, it fucking locks after a couple of failed tries. Yeah. But then Staten Jack says, what you can do instead is take that sledgehammer of yours and break that window. It's like, oh yeah, that's a much better idea. No, that's a worse idea. They got fucking alarms and shit.
I think, to counter that point, Jameson, I think the stupidest thing about this situation is that both Basie and Staten Jack have jungle camouflage painted faces like Staten Jack's back in Vietnam, but Staten Jack actually wore dark clothing. Basie's just wearing his basic blue shirt. Yeah. So it's like, why the fuck did you even put the face paint on in the first place? That's not gonna do anything for you.
Right. Yeah, and then like Hitchcock's gotta rescue them from jail.
And this is bizarre too. Like, there's not a single scene in this movie where they do the thing you would assume that they would do to get out of the situation. It's always the most
complicated, illogical. Yeah. Why wasn't Hitchcock there with them when they were trying to take the bottle?
Because he's all weak and he's losing his magic, so he has to, like, rest a bunch.
And yet he could turn an entire police station into a Roman
orgy.
Yeah.
So Hitchcock goes to the police station
in his finest off-brand goofy hat.
Oh man. I could charitably talk about this goofy hat for 20 minutes. I don't know what its deal is. So we haven't seen Hitchcock for a couple of scenes. He shows up. He is using his magic without any wishes because he is sitting in the passenger seat of the truck, but he is using his magic to drive the car.
Yeah, the self-driving car.
Right.
And now he is wearing this goofy hat from Disneyland that is the hat and the ears. But
to avoid a lawsuit, they give Goofy fangs and a human nose.
So he is added to the Goofy hat. To what point, we don't know. To what end, we don't know. Also unexplained, he has huge bandages on the side of his face.
Right.
That Stan Jack even asks him when he got out of jail, what happened to you? He says, don't worry about it. Never explained.
Never touched on again.
There was an accident on set.
Cut himself shaving, I guess. Hey, here's another parallel. Do you remember the ending of Aladdin?
Oh yeah, he wore a Goofy hat.
He wears a Goofy hat as well. So yeah, Mike Marvin clearly saw like an early screening of Aladdin and cribbed some ideas, because that is too much of a coincidence the Goofy hat appears in both movies.
Right.
Yeah, but they could do that with an actual Goofy hat because it's fucking Disney. No pending lawsuit. Right. Why couldn't they have given him a different hat?
I'm just getting this word in. Apparently the Disney movie also has a Goofy hat. The Genie is wearing a Goofy hat too. Can we give him like vampire fangs? He's like vampire Goofy. There we go. It's a different hat.
It's not Goofy. It's a Gooby.
It's Gooby. Yeah. Gooby, please. Yes, that was the intro of Gooby. Yeah, so to get his friends to escape from jail, he turns the cop station into a Roman orgy, and so all of the cops are making out with, I guess, prostitutes that they've arrested,
and the female officers who worked there. There was like a female officer there and like a female lawyer, I think. But there were other prostitutes. Yeah.
I thought it just came out of nowhere. I thought they were part of the jail. Yeah.
I don't know, because when it snaps back to reality, they're immediately like, "Ew, why are you kissing me?" And I don't know. They looked like ladies
Women
of the night, but maybe that was my...
I was hoping there would be a line from, like, Stat and Jack, who is like, alright, we gotta get out of here. He's like, can I stick around for a little bit longer?
Right.
Obvious joke that they missed.
God, come on.
But the line that confuses me is after Hitchcock turns it into a Roman orgy, he says to himself,
I thought it was gonna be a Western cantina.
How would that have helped? That seems like that would have made your job more difficult,
Much
Hitchcock, but I don't know. I don't understand Genie's shit.
Wasn't there like a bit, like, or a line where Hitchcock, like, he performs like some really subtle magic, and then when, like, Basie gives him a look, he says, well, when you're a genie, you can do some shit. Which I think is sort of like the tagline of this fucking movie. Right. Whenever the writers hit a wall, they could just be like, when you're a genie, you can do some shit.
This is a weirdly quotable movie. I mean, like, do we want to put a pin in talking about the plot that just mentioned, like, some of our favorite one-off lines? Like,
Absolutely.
I'll start. When they're breaking into the art gallery, we see a security guard, and as soon as he's aware that they're in there, he goes, "You cockeyed son of a harlot!" It's like a weirdly Shakespearean sort of security guard there.
Mine, I think, is near the beginning. I think it's one of the doctors of the lawyers. He goes, "Man, this is the last time. I've been screwed, blued, and tattooed." Actually, I think it was Stat and Jack.
I didn't hear that at all.
Sounds like a Stat and Jack.
Stat and Jack does have a lot of good lines.
Right.
Stat and Jack has one very confusing line that I'll share with you guys. I do not know what this means. It's like shortly after his introduction, Basie says something and then walks away from the group, and then Stan Jack turns to Hitchcock and he says, "Every time I see that boy's legs, I want to pick my teeth."
Yeah.
Jeez, every time I see that boy's legs, I want to pick my teeth.
Yeah,
Which
I heard
means
that too.
What the fuck is that supposed
What
to mean?
the fuck could that mean?
I kind of want to Google it and just see if it's maybe like an 80s reference or 90s reference.
Does it mean he's got like really thin legs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even say my favorite line cast because that was going to be the one that I was going to mention.
Oh, was it? Oh, I'm sorry, Jameson.
No. Well,
I
did have one other line here, but it's not funny. It's just like when the three men are driving in Basie's pickup truck and he like talks about Lily, the girl he's never met. Stan Jack says like, "Yeah, come on, man, like you don't bother with her." And Basie says like, "You don't know anything about her, Basie. You don't know fucking anything about her either."
You know literally nothing. You and Stat and Jack have the same amount of information about this girl.
There's another one where Silverstein, who's yelling at someone, he goes, "Don't tell me how to do my job, earwax," as if it's some kind of insult.
That was the cop.
Oh, there you go.
So Lily manages to escape. She immediately jumps in with this group, and it's another weird tone because they're sitting there, and she's just all like, "We're going to Disneyland, right?"
Are we gonna have fun or what? Disneyland!
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you about. We may have to postpone the Magic Kingdom for a couple hours or so. Maybe a day.
That's okay. This is fun.
Again, retard is such a harsh, mean word. That's why we don't use it in polite company now. But it's the most stereotypical thing a cartoonish retard might say in a situation like that. I want to go to Disneyland! It's like, and like this poor actress, Quinn Kessler is her name. She was in 2 movies after this and then never appeared in anything ever again. They didn't really give her much of a character to play. Or they gave her a very complicated character to play that I don't think anyone could have pulled off very well.
Right? I'd love to see a Walking Phoenix edition of this or something.
What's a Walking Walking Phoenix? I was like,
What's a Walking Phoenix?
I mean, I guess they got the wings, but I guess they can, do a little bit of hook.
You know how phoenixes walk around.
Yeah, it's like a roadrunner.
Yeah. Anyway, Lily escapes. They get the cops over. Paul Gleason's talking to the cops.
Yeah, they just have like a tenuous relationship, the lawyer and the cops. Was the head detective played by anyone? He looked like someone.
Yes, indeed. The head detective is played by Rance Howard.
Rance Howard. That's Ron Howard's dad, right?
Clint Howard and Ron Howard's dad.
Yeah.
So Mike Marvin previously worked with Clint Howard in The Wraith, and on his next movie, I guess their dad was available. Rance Howard is one of those actors who's been in just everything. He's been in like 500 movies. And yeah, he's just kind of typical movie police chief. They're running after them in the car and they've got a helicopter and the car is slightly getting away. So what do? They launch a ground-to-air fucking missile at them in the middle of Beverly Hills.
The most populated.
And like even the bad guy lawyer's getting mad at them for doing that.
Well, I don't care about citizens or something like that.
Yeah, like, sometimes we get a few citizens, but then he kind of like shrugs it off.
What every once in a while, yeah. This is also the scene where for some reason Mrs. Krabs is slowly turning into a New Yorker cartoon.
Yeah.
Because
she's got the cigarette holder and everything.
For the majority of the movie, she's just wearing regular matron clothes, but like all of a sudden, now she's wearing a full tuxedo.
She's slowly turning into the Penguin.
All she needs is the top hat and the monocle, and she's got the thing. Why is she wearing a tuxedo now? Again, never explained, but it's a good look, though.
It is a good look, yeah.
It works for her.
I was saying, she looks like Carrie Fisher if she was in Men in Black or something like that, right? Some kind of detective movie.
Christ. There is so much we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about the weird symphony in the alley. So Lily it's maybe mentioned early on that she's a savant because she can only read at a 2nd grade level, but she's a concert level pianist. There's like a moment where they're like hiding from the cops. They're hanging out, I think, at Staten Jack's house. I don't know. There's a woman there. I'm not sure who she is.
With a piano.
I know who she is. That was Seinfeld's mom.
That was Seinfeld's mom. Oh my God, you're right. She has like one line too. She's all like, "You son of a bitch," and then that's wild.
Yeah.
Wow. Good call, James.
For such a strange movie, they have a lot of hidden gold in it.
Yeah, so they're hiding from the cops, and Lily finds this back alley with all of this junk, which is why initially I thought that was Basie's house, because it's got all this junk in the back, but I guess it's not. I guess it's Seinfeld's mom's house. They just went over to, like, have tea or something. Yeah. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, if they checked in the garage, they're going to see boxes from when Morty used to sell raincoats for 35 years. Call it the Executive. The beltless French coat.
So she starts playing this piano in the alley, and then every surrounding neighbor all shows up all at once because someone is playing a piano. What an odd thing to happen in an alley. Everyone come look. Bring candles.
Bring candles, right?
I still can't fucking believe that this movie is from the same guy that did Hot Dog and Hamburger.
I really want to watch this.
It's kind of... Well, like, those movies are so madcap, zany, cartoony, and, like, now this guy's, like, trying to invoke some emotion and, like, beauty in this.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't kidding when he said, like, it's time for him to grow up, and this is the movie that was gonna do it.
This is The Day the Clown Cried.
Yeah, for real.
This is his serious message movie that he really shouldn't have tried so hard.
This alley scene, yeah, it's this montage or whatever. It seems like it's some kind of attempt to really make us feel something, you know what I mean?
It also feels like another missed opportunity because as all, like, the neighbors were coming out, my thought is, why aren't these more homeless people.
Right.
Because you introduce this idea early on that you want to, mentioning homeless people, I just realized we haven't even mentioned the best character in the movie. But it's like, you introduce like this theme of homelessness early on. Hitchcock is homeless, he has lost his home. We meet other homeless characters throughout it. Basie is like this garbage dumper, and so he might have a home, but he lives like this transient lifestyle. Why are all these yuppie neighbors coming out to listen to this? Why isn't it all hobos coming out of like the woodwork? And then we can have like this nice moment where these people who don't have anything in life, don't have anywhere to go.
They have each other.
Yeah. Listen to this nice song. But no, it's just rando people in the neighborhood. So we're getting to the end. We have to double back because we forgot to talk about the most important character in the movie, the homeless football player, Teddy.
Yeah, so he was a receiver for the San Francisco 49ers who I guess missed a big catch in the Super Bowl and cost them the game, and that mentally broke him and ruined his life, and now he is a homeless man who's like...
Who still can't catch.
And, he has these delusions of... He's friends with Basie and Stat and Jack, and there's like this wonderful scene where they're in like this suburban area.
This scene is amazing.
In the middle of trying to track down Hitchcock's bottle, they just like stop for a minute to join Teddy in a game of football. And, and it's not a football. Like, they throw, like...
They throw a soda can.
They throw a soda can, and they're like, Teddy, go long! And he misses the catch, and he has, like, this crestfallen, heartbroken...
We almost had it, Basie. I dropped the ball, man.
It's okay, Ted. It's just a game.
Dropped it in the clutch, man. Dropped it in the clutch. Dropped it in the clutch.
And I thought to myself, like, well, I know how this fucking movie's gonna end now, even though it didn't.
I mean, it does. Maybe not in the way
but it does it the way it should have.
It does get there. God, yeah, they turn the pathos dial up to like 1,000,000 whenever this character is on screen, and it's so funny because it doesn't match with the rest of the movie. I don't know who this actor is, but he's giving his Oscar moment in this silly fucking movie.
And then Hitchcock saves him from being run over by a truck.
Yeah. No one wished that. Hitchcock is just like, Wishman!
This truck clearly, it had been driving at least, he had at least 10 seconds to see Teddy and stop.
Oh, yeah. You know how, like, his story arc ought to have ended was he joins them on, or he's at least nearby when they storm the art gallery again and then the climax of the movie where there's a standoff with the cops and they have the bottle, and just as the cops are about to, like, rush these guys, Teddy's open. So throw the bottle to him, he catches it, and then he like regains his sanity or whatever, and he's like back to how he was before. He's found redemption that way.
Yeah.
That's how that fucking character arc should have ended. What do they fucking do instead? I don't know, they go back in time or some shit.
They add many false endings to this.
They make it a fucking like cop-out Deus Ex Machina.
They go back in time to a point before he had 37 concussions all within the space of a year, which is why he's homeless wandering around in the street. It's very sad. There's actually not a joke there. That's very sad, and the NFL needs to get on top of this whole concussion thing, because it's a big problem.
Yeah.
So this leads us to, I'm sure there's 8 other insane things we could talk about, but we got to start wrapping up. So they go back to the antiques place. No, the museum. They go back to the museum. They crash. There's a brief scene in a car park where I alluded to earlier, where Hitchcock, he's hanging on by a thread. He's just wasting away to nothing. They have to ditch their truck and they want to steal another car. And that's when Basie says, I wish I had this car. And Hitchcock's all like, it's not to help me, is it? It's all like, nope, it's purely selfish. And so he goes, magic. And I'm like, Hitchcock, I feel like that isn't the rule that you established earlier.
Would have been great if Basie had, because like we mentioned, like he repurposes junk to make stuff, even though they never do it. But shouldn't he have like something to like jerry rig a car, or to start a car, or something?
Do something with that. Yeah, do literally anything with the idea that he's a junk man.
You don't need much to break into a car. You need a fucking rock to break a window. Like,
They end up starting the car with, I think they just keep repeating, I wish the car started. I wish the car started.
And then eventually poor Hitchcock, who is down to like 2% magic, is just like,
all right,
fine. You're going to sit there and you're going to tell me Staten Jack Rose doesn't know how to hotwire a car? Come on. That's the most unbelievable thing in this entire movie.
Yeah, the guy who brings a chainsaw to a B&E doesn't know how to fucking hotwire a car.
So they crash the car into the museum. The cops are right behind them. There's a tense standoff. Poor Hitchcock has completely evaporated just down to his clothes. But when they get close to the bottle, pixie dust, that's the only word to describe it. Pixie dust comes out because the poor traumatized girl with the brain of like a 10-year-old starts going,
Pixie dust! That's pixie dust!
It's pixie dust! We're going to Disneyland! And it's, again, very odd.
Whatever, alright.
It brings him back. It brings him back right before, there's like a tense standoff with Miss Krabs and Paul Gleason where she, punches them and is all like, haha, independence, but not really, because I've gone through very visible trauma and I need years of therapy, but don't worry about it. Magic Genie. Hitchcock goes back into the bottle and he takes Spacey and Lily with, so they are gone and the police are under the assumption that there was an explosion of sorts that vaporized them because why the fuck not?
I like the sequence or the bit where like the magic is swirling all around them and it is pulling them into the bottle because the cop's reaction is sort of like this nonplussed like this fucking genie horse shit again.
Yeah,
right.
It's out of our jurisdiction. Like we need to get a warrant to go into a bottle. It's a huge.
Whereas we know as viewers, at this point their reaction should have been, oh, he was a genie.
Yeah.
He was Genie, everyone! He
Right?
was Genie. And they just move on from it and they don't question it again.
Never again.
Like, even Paul Gleason is all like, oh, Genie took the girl.
Oh.
Alright, well, I guess on to my next evil scheme. There was a Genie. It was a Genie, everyone.
It's a genie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because everyone's like so ready to believe in the existence of genies. I guess genies just exist in this world, but they're like, it's a matter of fact, but they're kind of hard to come by. Or like, there's no way a genie would ever be like, out of his bottle.
Based on the casual way everyone
Genies
reacts
don't
to
get
it.
drunk.
My assumption is you're right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really. We cut to exactly 4 years, 9 months, and 27 and a half months later.
Was that a line of dialogue?
how do you know
No, there was a title, like it faded to black and fade back into like the epilogue, which was like 4 years, 9 months, and 27 and a half days later.
That must have been when I was getting my tea, because I missed that entirely.
Yeah, very specific.
That tracks for this movie.
And we see Staten Jack and Teddy with dynamite ready to break into the gallery again to get the bottle, which is like intercut with scenes that take place inside this cosmic beach genie reality where now Basie and Lily are living together in like this beautiful tropical resort, living their best life.
They are on a beach, which is directly next to the planet Saturn, which is like right next to them. They're on a beach. I guess they've magicked 2 dream children, because there's 2 little girls on the beach.
Right.
So I guess they have like a family now, which I guess it tracks because they clearly seemed so deeply in love, even though before they went into the bottle, like there was a scene with the 2 of them just like hanging out, and this poor imprisoned girl is all like, hey, what's that place? And she points to a diner, and Paul Amat's like, it's kind of like a restaurant. First of all, it's literally exactly a restaurant. You don't need to confuse this girl any more than she already is. And then she goes like, hamburgers? And he goes, yeah, and shakes and fries.
What is this place?
It's kind of a restaurant.
Burgers?
Yeah, and shakes and fries.
Neat!
He delivers that line with the cadence of someone, to reference Arrested Development, Jameson, someone who has just realized, I have made a horrible decision. This was a problem, but this girl clearly needs someone to look after her.
Guess
that's me now.
Yeah.
And even at the end, he doesn't seem that in love with her. He's just kind of like, I guess this is my life. I live in a bottle now.
Next to Saturn on a beach, yeah.
I mean, didn't she mention that, like, she just finished, like, Gone with the Wind in, like, 4 days, so, like, they did magic to make her not have the brain of a
It sounds like it, yeah. She was
Like,
putting together some really long sentences there.
That's a great message to any developmentally disabled people who might watch this. There's something wrong with you, but don't worry. If you meet a genie, you can go live in his magic world, and your brain will be fine.
You'll be fine. You'll be able to read.
There's something about you that needs to be fixed. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But don't worry. God, it's kind of
and so
awful.
You think
how
the film
empowering that there's someone like me in a movie, in a mainstream movie,
right?
So they're on the beach. Hitchcock shows up in like a future car. That's kind of weird.
It was like a half tree trunk. Yeah.
He says he got like promoted, so he's a better genie now. I don't really know how that shit works, but I would love to see more movies set in this world just to explain half of the shit they introduced in this movie.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, and then Hitchcock says, "Oh, someone else rubbed the lamp." He disappears. They kiss. Freeze frame. You would assume that's the last scene of the movie. Not so.
Not so at all.
Yeah, it cuts to big game, the Super Bowl. Fucking 49ers are down by 7 or whatever.
Yeah. A touchdown and something.
Teddy's got to make the big catch, and even when the quarterback's like calling the play in the huddle, he even says like, "You got to give me the ball. It's my wish."
Yeah. And the football player's like, right, I forgot for a second, I don't exist, I just exist inside your fantasy. That's right.
Fantasy,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll give the ball to Teddy, everyone, yeah.
And Teddy catches the football, and then the movie ends, and we're serenaded by Round and Round by Jack Mack and the Heart Attacks.
Oh, wow. Good call, I didn't even get that. Yeah.
It was great.
I like the closing credits because as the song starts, you can still hear Teddy for like a minute going like, I get it, I got the ball, I got the ball, I got it. Okay, so I want to double back to the scene right before this. So I mentioned in our chat before this started that there's a celebrity cameo in this movie, but you'll never find it. So here it is, keeping in track with everything else. This is the most fucking random fucking celebrity to appear in this movie.
More than Seinfeld's mom?
That's what it is. That's it. You guessed it, James. It was Jerry Seinfeld's mom. No. Okay. So you remember that the fantasy sequence were on, they're on the Saturn beach. You remember those two little girls playing in the sand?
Yeah.
Paris and Nikki Hilton.
No fucking way.
What?
Oh my god.
Wow.
They are at the very end of the listed credits in IMDb. They're both clearly
Girl
6
on
or
beach.
something.
There you go.
Actually, the entire Hilton family is in this because Rick and Kathy Hilton, their parents are credited as man and woman at football games. So the whole brood got in here. So my theory here is that this movie came out in 1992, so it was probably filming in 1991. 1991 is when Home Alone 2 came out.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
The Hilton family goes to movies for Christmas, or maybe they got like a real sent to their house because that's what rich fucking people do. I don't know. But they're all watching Home Alone 2 as a family, and then fucking Orangina shows up for his fucking like 30-second cameo or
Future
whatever.
president, current ex-president.
Current ex-president, yeah.
Let's hope. Fingers still
Current
crossed.
lame duck
Yeah.
president,
And then Rick Hilton sees fucking Donald Trump fucking walk onto that thing. He's just like, that motherfucker. And he immediately calls
Come on,
like his
kids,
lawyer.
we're getting
Just
in the
like,
movie.
get me in a movie.
Yeah.
Get me in any movie. Get me any fucking
Give me the
movie.
hot dog
the whole
guy.
family. What is that? And the timing works out perfectly too, because if they went to go see Home Alone 2 in theaters, a trailer in front of that could very well have been Aladdin. So they see like the trailer for Aladdin before that comes out. He's talking to his lawyer. His lawyer's all like, I don't know, I got like this genie picture here. And Rick Hilton's just all like, great, the whole family's in. I don't care.
It's
gotta
kind of,
get in there.
it's not the fella.
Daddy, I want to be in the movies. Put me in a movie. Well, if that's what my pumpkin wants, that's what my pumpkin's gonna get.
And then years later, Pumpkin was in a movie that the whole world watched and enjoyed.
No, she wound up watching Wishmaster, and that probably set her on a bit of a path.
Wait, Wishman.
What did I say?
Wishmaster, which
Yeah,
is
Wishman.
an excellent movie that I rewatched this Halloween. Boy, that movie holds up. That movie is fucking great. You ever see that?
No, but I've seen
yeah.
Wishman.
Yeah.
Is it anything like Wishman?
Great movie.
Great double feature, Wishman and Wishmaster, yes. So that's the movie. That's the end of this fucking insane movie. Was there anything else in either of your notes that we didn't talk about that we want to mention really quick right here?
The Asian butlers. I mean, those guys were the creme de la
Oh,
crop.
yes.
The Kung Fu butlers?
They show up maybe twice, but I mean, they're just...
In the scene where Basie and Lily are like having their nice little walk around the pool and getting to know each other, you know, the scene that's supposed to be really endearing and romantic, and it's just not. But like that's the way the movie's trending, and just as they're leaning in for the kiss, all of a sudden these kung fu butlers come out of nowhere and just start screaming at them. What a fucking mood killer.
Right. I would say it's kind of like, it's like watching Cirque du Soleil and having the two clowns come out. There's no place for it. It's segue into something else. I don't know.
One thing I wanted to mention, now, I'm not exactly sure what the budget for this movie was, especially for things like special effects. I'm going to assume not, or at least like digital special effects, like lightning effects and stuff like that, because I can't imagine it's a lot. There's the scene when when Hitchcock is breaking Basie and Staten Jack out of the police precinct. He does like his Jack Sparrow arm wavy thing, and periodically like a bolt of lightning will flash between his two palms, but it's not enough. So what you really are just left with is a man kind of doing like these weird like oscillating like hand gestures and movements, and if you blink, you're gonna miss like a bolt of red lightning that goes between them, because for the most part, it's just him.
Yeah. This very clearly, like when they were on set, the only thing that they told Mike Marvin is all like, we have no idea what these effects are gonna look like.
Yeah,
just do a lot of this.
Yeah.
Just do a lot of...
We'll add it in post.
A lot of flailing, you know, we'll find some way to put it in. No, there's so much to talk about. We could easily go on for another 30 minutes, but I think that's a good place to start wrapping it up. Matt Jameson, would you recommend Wishman?
To who? That is
to all.
To all. I'd say.
Or I don't know. To
looking...
whatever group you. Is there a group of people you would recommend Wishman?
Like, did you enjoy watching this movie?
Did you like it? Yes. How did you feel? How did you feel now that it's over and we've picked apart every minute detail? What are your thoughts on Wishman?
I'd say it wasn't bad. It was. If you're looking for something to watch on a Friday night, I think it's a good movie to watch just because it is entertaining and you can kind of pick it apart and go, that doesn't make sense. But if you're looking for something to break down and kind of keep track of, good luck. This is not the movie to watch because it's just all over the place. But I mean, yeah, it's always fun to see, you know, magical genies and everything in our world.
God, it's interesting, like, having seen other movies by this guy and those movies just being dumb screwball sex comedies.
Yeah.
And then seeing this. So it's, I guess if you have seen the rest of Mike Marvin's Over, check this one out because it's completely off the rails insane in a different way. Here, my takeaway is, like, first of all, I don't know if I would recommend people watching this, but I'm kind of surprised that there's hardly any trace of it around. I could see this movie having like a new life as something like Troll 2. Like,
totally.
Yeah, like you could show it at like film festivals. It now has like this stupid cult following. It's like, it's so baffling and mind-boggling that like there's going to be like a group of support built around it. So I suppose in that way, give it a shot.
Oh man, Wishman cosplayers, like people dressing up as Hitchcock and
the goofy hat and the
ladies dressing up in tuxedos with the cigarette holders and everything. No. God, yeah, this is the definition of a hidden gem. This movie is amazing, and it is, I think you said it, Jameson, it has been almost completely scrubbed from existence. Like, it is an amazing stroke of luck that this movie exists on full on YouTube, and I completely recommend this movie. I think this movie's a blast. You know, as we said earlier, there's a slight trigger warning here because they do use language that isn't appropriate anymore. But if you look at it as kind of like a product of the times, it's a ball. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense, but it is so relentlessly entertaining. I was never bored once, and it's so fun. And the fact that it exists on YouTube, like, not only do I recommend it, look for this on YouTube. Watch this. This is This will blow your mind. I think this movie is
I would love to see the film
genuinely
reviews
good.
when this came out and see what people in the time said about it, just to see.
I can see why this movie isn't really, like, talked about more.
Right.
And I can see why, like, no actors are kind of, like, bringing it up in discussion. So I get that.
Yeah.
But, like, yes, this does need to be...
Most of the actors in this are dead now. So that's probably why no one brings it
That
up
could be
anymore.
it, yeah.
Fair, yeah.
Poor Paul Lamont is having enough trouble getting people to remember who he is without bringing up Wishman, so I'm sure...
And this episode isn't going to help.
No, not at all. Matt Shaw, thank you for being the guest on the show.
Thank you guys for,
We've run long through tangents, as we often do on this show, but let's take a couple of minutes here. What do you want to tell us about Mythological?
Oh yeah, Mythological. So it's a new animated show we're working on. Basically, we're just developing it right now. So we just came up with our website. It's mythillogicaltheseries.com. It's not spelled the normal way you would spell mythological. If you break it into two words, it's myth and illogical. So mythillogicaltheseries.com. Illogical, kind of like this movie we just saw. And so basically we have this forum because our show deals with a lot of religions and cultures. So we want to kind of create this conversation and open up this community to talking about your culture or your religion and just get everybody involved, because I think the more we can include everybody in the actual development process of this animated series, then the more accurate and, I think it's just, we're crossing a very fine line dealing with religion and making it into an adult comedy. So I think the more kind of aspects we can get on it, the better. Yeah, our main goal right now is just if you want to check out the website, all the information's on there. Contribute to the forum.
No, that's fantastic. That sounds great, and good on you for are you shopping that around to like networks, or is it still like in the develop? Okay.
Yeah, cool. In January we have a couple pitches. Just putting together packages right now. So, but we're just getting everything together. But we're really focused on bringing together this community, because I think that's. Like you have Family Guy and all these Futurama and Rick and Morty and everything that kind of take you on a journey, and it's entertaining, but we kind of want to include everybody in this process because I think it's very important moving forward, right? Just the material we're talking about. And
I didn't want to interrupt that flow. I do feel like I should mention my phone apparently is about to die.
Oh no.
So unless there's anything integral that you wanted to say, any information that you wanted to get out about Mythological, let's maybe wrap this up in the next 2 minutes or so.
No, just check out the website. We're also on Facebook. All the information is on the website, mythillogicaltheseries.com.
We'll include all that information on our Instagram page so people can go check that out. Cool. Matt, have you watched or seen or read or listened to anything lately that you recommend people check out?
I've been falling asleep to Alan Watts recently. If you just need a nice, sultry sounding voice at nighttime, it's fantastic, just because he has this kind of one-tone British accent. David Attenborough, also good.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Jameson, what are you into right now?
I just watched, for the first time ever, Internal Affairs, the movie that The Departed is based on. Yeah.
Sorry to be that nerd guy again. I believe you're referring to Infernal Affairs.
Oh, Infernal Affairs.
Yes. Internal Affairs is a movie with Richard Gere and Andy Garcia, but yes, I made the same mistake too when I watched it. No, the one based on The Departed was based on.
The Departed is based on, yeah. Still, it's a wonderful story. It was interesting seeing it be told that way. I think I still prefer The Departed, but what I think I really like about that story in itself is that I think it's a great potential for something like, especially after seeing Infernal Affairs, that should be like a TV series. I could see that sort of being stretched out, much in the way that Fargo was, and taking the themes and ideas from it and kind of stretching it out through 3 seasons of an HBO show or something.
Well, then you might be pleased to know that it does in fact have 2 sequels.
Oh!
Yes.
How about that? Well, there we go.
Yeah, I remember when The Departed came out, the producers were all like, we gotta get a sequel to this Departed movie. And everyone was all like, everyone died at the end.
Sure?
How the hell are we gonna do this sequel? Little did they know, 2 sequels already in the bank. Great. As for me, I am absolutely obsessed with the new Gorillaz album, Song Machine. That's just a being of pure joy. I think this is one of their best. I think it's maybe the 4th best album that they've ever put out. I'm just loving the song so much. I love the song The Pink Phantom with Elton John. That's just been stuck in my head ad nauseum. Yeah, so listen to that. And also, at this point in time in the podcast, I want to get into the habit of, we have an Instagram page, and most of the people who like our Instagram page are other podcasts. So I wanted to get into the habit of started listening to some of them and then pumping them here on this part of the show. So my podcast recommendation for this week is a podcast that I'm really enjoying. Just realized I forgot to look up the name of the hosts. It's a recommendation that comes with a side of salt, because I'm really enjoying it. I think the name is kind of ridiculous. It's a podcast literally called The GameCube Was Cool.
Oh, nice.
But it's a podcast all about the history of the GameCube, and every episode is about a different game. So they're going through every game that was released on the GameCube. It's two guys, Mike Lane and Neil Gilbert, talking about video games. I enjoy it. That's on Spotify. Search The GameCube Was Cool. I'm gonna include a plug here every week. I'm still having trouble remembering that word. I don't know why, Jameson. It's literally what I do for a job. Anyway, doesn't matter.
One other recommendation I wanted to make, and this is like somewhat like topical. As of today, Alex Trebek has sadly lost his battle with prostate cancer. I'm reading his memoir at the moment, nice. Which is called The Answer Is. I had it written down here. It's a great, he was, everyone always like puts like Bob Ross on a pedestal as like such a very wholesome man with like a good head on his shoulders. Alex Trebek is right up there. He's like an absolute like gentleman of a Canadian, had a wonderful perspective on his life and his upcoming fate. So I highly recommend people check that book out.
Totally. I second those sentiments. Rest in peace, Mr. Trebek. You are one of the finest Canadians. It's very weird because I'm sure everyone here shares the same sentiment. He was just one of those people that always seemed to be around, and we kind of assumed that he would always be around. On that note, rest in peace, sir. Madhav Shah, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening. That was Wishman, directed by Michael Marvin. If you like the show, please remember to follow us on Instagram at the F is This Podcast. I almost said .com again. I keep doing that. You stay toasty, Detective Frogs.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to say, Jameson?
What about Detective Frogs? No,
just about just any sort of closing sentiments to.
No, I never do. I think sign-off phrases are ridiculous.
But I thought maybe this time you might.
You know my thoughts on this.
I ask because I think maybe one time you'll surprise me. But,
at the push of a button, I could end this Zoom call.